A week before the wedding, Marcus's friends organized a bachelor party. Everyone present had to take turns sharing a secret. When it was Marcus's close friend Chloe's turn, she said mysteriously, "My first time was with Marcus." Amidst the waves of cheering and catcalling, Grace's silence was strikingly conspicuous. Marcus's close friend Chloe loudly declared that Grace couldn't take a joke, continuing to rub salt in her wound. "Actually, it's nothing much. Marcus got engaged that night, and I drank too much out of happiness. He took me home, and then, by accident, but we separated right after we sobered up. We're just buddies, so I just treated it like a quick prick from a needle. Grace, please don't take it to heart." Everyone looked at Grace, except for Marcus. He first lightly tapped Chloe's head, his tone indulgent. "You're such a chatterbox. I'm definitely spending the night on the couch when we get home." Then he looked at Grace, a hint of careful appeasement in his eyes. "Don't listen to Chloe's nonsense. She's always hanging out with us guys and is used to being so careless. That night, we just drank too much and lay on the same bed for a while. Nothing happened. Chloe, tell Grace the truth." Compared to the unconscious indulgence he showed Chloe, his appeasing demeanor toward Grace felt so false it made her sick. Grace recalled the day of their engagement a year ago. After seeing off the guests, Marcus had disappeared. Grace anxiously asked around and only learned from his buddies that he was being pestered by a drunk friend and had to take that friend home first. But when she woke up the next day, she happened to run into Marcus as he was rushing home. At the time, Marcus had a scratch on his neck, and a strange odor emanated from him. He said he had passed by an area with a strong floral scent on his way back, and that's where the smell came from. "Whatever you say, Grace. It's just a game, everyone's just kidding around. Don't take it seriously. Or Marcus will have to spend the night on the couch when we get back, and I'll be in big trouble with the guys." Chloe casually put her arm around Marcus's neck, acting like they were like brothers. Everyone quickly shifted their gaze away from Grace, continuing to make crude and inappropriate jokes. "Chloe, is Marcus really that small down there? Comparing it to a prick from a needle, that's really going to hurt Marcus's ego. Whether it's big or small, why don't you see for yourselves?" Chloe made a move to pull down Marcus's pants, and the sound of cheering and catcalling pierced Grace's ears. Scrape, the screech of a chair scraping the floor, and the boisterous cheering and catcalling, were interrupted for a moment. Grace grabbed Chloe, who was laughing and tugging at Marcus's crotch, and slapped her. The private room fell completely silent. Chloe clutched her face, staring at Grace in stunned disbelief, then turned to Marcus with a look of injustice. "Marcus, what is your girlfriend's problem? I was kindly throwing you a party before your wedding, not for her to come spoil it and humiliate me." Marcus's other friends also chimed in with cold expressions. Grace immediately slapped Chloe again with the back of her hand. But in the next second, she was forcefully pushed away, her back hitting the wall hard. It was Marcus. The deliberate, fake appeasement on his face was completely replaced by anger. He only lost his composure like this when it came to Chloe. Noticing Chloe's gaze, Marcus quickly composed himself and cautiously steadied her, but he shielded Chloe completely. "You're drunk, Grace. Apologize to Chloe now." Seeing stand up for Chloe like that, Grace let out a sarcastic laugh. Perhaps she really was drunk. Marcus and his buddies had made them take turns sharing a secret, and if the secret wasn't shocking enough for everyone present, they'd have to drink 5 cups of alcohol. Normally, they would just go through the motions, but it was as if they were deliberately making things difficult for Grace. 3 of the 5 drinks were hard liquor. To avoid embarrassing Marcus, and to avoid being called a party pooper, Grace endured the stomach pain and drank the 5 cups Chloe had specially prepared for her. Otherwise, she might still be enduring silently, just as she always had. From this moment on, whether it was Marcus's buddies, Chloe, or Marcus himself, Grace would tolerate it no longer. Chapter 2. Grace stared directly into Marcus's eyes, as if trying to see through him, and said, word by word, "Why should I apologize? If she doesn't understand boundaries, then I'll show her. Besides, saying something like that right before our wedding, wasn't she just asking for a slap from me? Now you're fighting with me to defend her, so her goal has been achieved." Marcus sighed, his expression helpless. "Grace, Chloe doesn't have all those complicated thoughts you do. It's just a joke among friends." As he spoke, he apologized to Chloe and his other friends while pulling Grace towards the private room door. "I'll call you a cab to go home first. You're drunk, and staying here will stop everyone else from having fun." Grace looked up at him, deciding to give him one last chance. "Marcus, do you choose me or her? If you choose me, come home with me now. If you choose her, our wedding is off." Marcus, however, thought Grace was just speaking out of anger and didn't take her words about canceling the wedding seriously. Grace, I beg you, stop making a scene. You're making me lose face in front of my friends. Both you and they are very important to me. Be a good girl, go home first. I'll come back to you later tonight. Marcus didn't even meet her gaze, quickly finished speaking, and turned back into the private room. Grace also knew his choice. Lively sounds quickly resumed in the private room. Marcus, quickly enjoy your last moments of happy premarital life, because it'll be gone soon. I didn't expect Grace to be so serious. What happened between us was a year ago, and she's still holding a grudge. It's truly boring. Others immediately began cheering and catcalling. I knew you two were for real. If you're true buddies, quickly tell us all the details and what positions you used. Listening to those voices, Grace felt nothing but disgust. Yet it also made her more clear-headed and calm than ever before. Grace took out her phone, drafted a message announcing the wedding cancellation for a week later, and sent it to all the relatives and friends she had invited. Back at home, after confirming that everyone had been informed about the wedding, Grace noticed that Marcus's buddy was live streaming on social media. By the time she realized it, her hand had already clicked on it faster than her mind. The background was a hotel room, and Marcus and Chloe were being pushed to embrace each other. The cheering and catcalling crowd still felt it wasn't enough, so they pressed Marcus and Chloe's heads together to kiss, tearing at Marcus's clothes. Although kept saying, "Stop messing around," his body was honest and showed little resistance. He was half-heartedly pushed and shoved, then fell onto the bed, embracing Chloe. Quick, quick, recreate the scene for the guys, let us all witness what happened a year ago. Chloe seemed a little embarrassed, clutching Marcus's collar with both hands and tilting her head up to kiss Marcus on the mouth. Marcus didn't dodge. Holy shit, Grace just entered the live stream. The person holding the phone and live streaming exclaimed in shock. But his voice was too low, drowned out by the raucous noise. With the alcohol going to his head, he quickly rejoined the lively atmosphere. Grace screen recorded and saved what she saw in the live stream, then exited the live stream, noted the location listed below the live stream, and called the police department. Hello, I'd like to report people engaging in lewd conduct. The address is Room 5001. Chapter 3. 2 hours later, Marcus returned home, his face dark with fury. Grace, was it you who reported us for engaging in lewd conduct? Do you know we just got taken to the police station? We're about to get married, why is your temper still so bad? How can I feel at ease marrying you like this? Chloe peeked her head out from behind Marcus, holding her phone. Exactly. Grace, are you trying to ruin all of us by doing this? Because of you, Marcus even paid $5,000 for each of us, otherwise we would have had to spend the night at the police station. You transfer $5,000 to each of us in the group chat, and then apologize to them on the phone, and we'll drop this whole thing. Almost instantly, Chloe burst in from outside the door. She ripped off Grace's blanket and pointed her phone at her. Well, Grace, I didn't realize you had such a figure. Since you won't apologize, then let everyone see you like this. You deserve a taste of humiliation too. Only then did Grace notice that Chloe was holding her phone, live streaming in their private group chat. Rage immediately surged to her head. Grace snatched the phone from Chloe's hand. She saw Marcus's friends chatting animatedly. Tisk tsk, truly Marcus, he usually eats well. Chloe really came up with a good idea. This bonus round is much better than getting $5,000, right? Chloe, move the phone closer, and a bit lower. Your camera is shaking so much, we can't see clearly. Message after message exploded, making Grace's head throb. Chloe's idea? That meant Marcus knew she was live streaming in the group chat, yet still allowed her to come in and pull off Grace's blanket. Without another word, Grace ended the live stream and smashed the phone onto the floor with all her might. The phone screen instantly shattered into pieces. Chloe looked speechless, about to start rambling, when Grace grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and swung it towards Chloe's head. After a dull thud, smack, one of Grace's cheeks stung with a burning pain. Marcus had shielded Chloe from the thrown lamp and then slapped Grace. What truly touching camaraderie. The lamp had cut Marcus's eye, and blood flowed into his eye. When he looked at Grace, his gaze held a subtle ruthlessness. Grace, you, smack. Marcus had slapped Grace for Chloe, so Grace slapped him back. Before he could utter any words of blame. So what if I reported you? You and Chloe were practically naked and rolling around together. Were you expecting me to applaud you? Marcus, you knew I had a habit of sleeping naked, yet you still let her come in here live streaming and pull off my blanket. You're utterly disgusting. Since and your friends are so important to you, then go spend your life with them. Grace's eyes were red with anger, and Marcus's intended words of rebuke were instantly stuck in his throat. He opened his mouth, his tone softening. I thought you wouldn't take off your clothes after coming home drunk. Chloe was just joking around and letting off some steam. I'll talk to her later. Her place is too far from here, and it's not safe for a girl to go home alone so late. She'll just stay here with us tonight. The events that unfolded one after another throughout the night made Grace's head split with pain. Grace kicked Marcus and Chloe out, locked the bedroom door, put on her earplugs, and tried to rest. Chapter 4. When woke up the next day, she heard Marcus and Chloe's voices, full of flirting and playful banter, coming from the living room. When comes out later, apologize to her. You know she has a bad temper. Just do it for me, at least to save face. Since you personally cooked for me and begged me, of course, I'll give you this courtesy. If you ask me, Grace is the only one you can tolerate. I really don't know what makes her worth being with you. The moment Grace opened the door, the sounds in the living room seemed to hit a pause button. You're awake. Tioch. E-Bridal Boutique just called to say your wedding dress is ready. Shall I go with you to try it on later? Marcus's tone was gentle, as if he had forgotten all the unpleasantness of yesterday. He was always like this, playing deaf and dumb whenever it involved Chloe or his friends. Chloe sat at the dining table, not getting up, eating breakfast with exaggerated movements, and glanced at Grace. Oh, sorry about that. Marcus and I both thought you wouldn't be up so early, so we didn't make you breakfast. How about I give you my leftovers? Chloe, Marcus warned, and only then did Chloe reluctantly apologize. What happened last night was my fault for being too impulsive, but I guess that makes us even for you deliberately reporting us. Marcus observed Grace's reaction, and seeing that she said nothing, he presumed that yesterday's events were all water under the bridge. By the time Grace had finished washing up, a fresh breakfast had been made and placed on the table. It was prepared by Marcus for her. Thinking about canceling the wedding dress order, Grace knew she had to go to the bridal boutique anyway, so she didn't fuss and quickly ate her breakfast. But when they arrived at the garage, Chloe was already sitting in the passenger seat. Chloe said she wanted to see the wedding dresses too, so let's all go together. She gets carsick, so Grace, you can just sit in the back. Grace said nothing, ignoring Chloe's provocative expression, and simply sat in the back seat. All the way there, Chloe was chattering away about funny stories involving Marcus and their friends. Even though they were less than a meter apart, Grace felt like she would never truly belong. If she couldn't fit in, then she should let go. After getting out of the car, Chloe immediately tugged Marcus forward. Marcus glanced back at Grace with a helpless expression, then with a look of full indulgence, he followed Chloe's lead and walked forward. By the time Grace walked into the bridal boutique, Marcus remained inside. Grace ignored his waving gesture and prepared to find the manager who had initially assisted her to discuss canceling the wedding dress order. But before she could find the manager, Chloe emerged from the fitting room, wearing the custom wedding dress Grace had ordered. I didn't expect this wedding dress to suit me so well. Marcus, quick, tell me if it looks good. Marcus seemed to have forgotten Grace's presence, jogging over to Chloe and examining her from head to toe. Beautiful, Chloe. I never imagined you in a wedding dress looking like this. Pretty impressive, right? Interrupting now seemed a bit inappropriate, but Grace couldn't bear to watch their sickening display of affection any longer. Since you like it so much, I'll sell this wedding dress to you at its original price. Marcus immediately put some distance between himself and Chloe. Grace, Chloe just wanted to try on a wedding dress since she's never worn one. You don't need to ditch it just because she tried it on, do you? It's not just the wedding dress. Marcus, I don't want you anymore either. Our wedding is cancelled. Chapter 5. A flicker of disbelief crossed Marcus's face. Grace, what are you talking about? Our wedding is in less than a week, how can it be cancelled? Is it just because Chloe tried on your wedding dress? Then I'll have the store rush a new one for you. That should satisfy you, right? Grace scoffed softly, opened a payment screenshot, and handed it over. This custom wedding dress cost $188,000. Transfer the money to me, and Chloe can wear it however she likes. Marcus choked for a moment. Grace, do you really have to stand here and talk about money with me? Can't I just transfer the money directly to the store when I order a new wedding dress? Grace pushed the payment details forward, making her stance clear. Marcus gritted his teeth slightly, but before he could say anything, Chloe, holding up the hem of the wedding dress, sidled up to him. If wants you to give her the money, just do it. My birthday is next month anyway, so consider this wedding dress your birthday present to me. Hearing the commotion, a sales assistant slowly approached. Marcus, his face a little embarrassed, transferred the money to Grace. Since transferred the money to you, I can take this wedding dress with me now, right? Suit yourself. Chloe happily asked the sales assistant to help pack up the wedding dress she had taken off, then pulled Marcus's arm and said, I just sent pictures of me in the wedding dress to the group chat. Kevin and the others said they're nearby and want us to join them. As she spoke, Chloe intentionally emphasized the words group chat and us too. Grace knew this was meant for her to hear, but she didn't react as Chloe had hoped. Marcus secretly glanced at Grace's expression. Seeing that Grace showed no reaction, a hint of annoyance appeared on his face. Grace, Chloe said, Marcus, you don't need to tell me where you want to go. Fine. Marcus gritted out a single word, then strode away from the bridal boutique, pulling Chloe along. Grace stood there, watching their figures disappear, before hailing a cab to leave. In the taxi, Grace finally had time to check her phone messages. The group chat with Marcus's friends that Grace was in already had 99 plus messages. Chloe had taken many selfies in the wedding dress, as well as photos of her hugging Marcus's arm. Just a few photos were enough to set off a storm in the group chat, which hadn't seen a single message in months. Damn, Chloe, you look truly feminine in that wedding dress. No wonder Marcus couldn't resist. If I were in bed with you, I wouldn't be able to control myself either. What kind of wedding dress play is this? Grace isn't with Marcus today? They truly are a perfect match. I'd say Chloe suits Marcus more than Grace. I'd bring City Hall here and have you two get married on the spot. You're right. Marcus and Chloe are chill dude sweethearts who grew up together. I thought they'd end up together, but I guess Marcus got tangled up with Grace in college. Come on, let's get together again. Marcus, don't bring Grace this time. She's such a killjoy, can't relax and have fun, and gets angry over anything. Grace scrolled through the messages from top to bottom, each one making her feel more numb. After 4 years of college and 2 years post-graduation with Marcus, no matter how much she gave or how much she compromised, Grace never earned the respect of Marcus's friends. A relationship spanning 6 years, even if reason told her what to do, how could she just let go? Tears blurred her vision as she continued to scroll through the chat history. The lively chat history came to an abrupt halt with Chloe's message, oops, sent it to the wrong group. Everyone stop messaging, Grace is still in this group chat. Chapter 6. This was immediately followed by several zip your lips emojis. Guys are just used to joking around, Grace, please don't take it to heart. What happened between Marcus and me was ages ago. If there was anything serious, we wouldn't have waited until you two were almost married. Grace offered a light explanation, and then the group chat went silent. Marcus didn't send a single word of explanation either. Grace and Marcus attended the same university but were in different departments. She met him when her freshman year was almost over. A small game he developed had won an award in a school competition. Grace had played that game for a while, recommended by a friend, and had learned a bit about Marcus, the developer. He was academically brilliant, handsome, and highly capable, excelling beyond his peers who started at the same level, right from his freshman year. Such a guy was undeniably attractive. Grace, too, was captivated by his looks and talent. But their majors had no overlap, and she hadn't thought about approaching him just for that slight crush. However, one evening, as she was preparing to return to her dorm from the library, a heavy rain started. She didn't have an umbrella, so she took off her jacket to shield herself and rushed towards the dorm. Halfway there, she twisted her ankle on the slippery path. Just as she was hesitating whether to call a friend to pick her up, Marcus appeared behind her, holding an umbrella. He carried her to the campus health center. Because they had missed the dorm closing time, the two of them made do and stayed at the campus health center for the night. Grace slept on the bed, and he sat on a chair, leaning on the bedside. From that time on, Grace and Marcus began to interact. 3 months after they met, he began to pursue her. Grace also had a good impression of him, and after a period of getting to know each other, they naturally became a couple. They interacted like most ordinary couples. Because had been raised spoiled by her family since childhood, Marcus often accommodated her temper. In his senior year, he started a business but was short on funds. Marcus knew Grace came from a good family, yet he would rather work 3 part-time jobs a day than mention asking her father to invest in his project. He said he liked her and didn't want to humble himself and be looked down upon by her. Grace knew he had his pride, so she proactively asked her family for $1 million investment. At that time, he voluntarily wrote her an IOU. However, Marcus's first venture still failed. Grace was worried he would be discouraged, so she encouraged him daily and worked with him to find new paths. Later, with guidance from her father, his current company slowly began to gain traction. Yet, she never imagined that after a 6-year relationship and so much time spent building it together, it would still end so messily. As soon as Grace returned home, she received a call from her parents, asking questions. Their tone conveyed concern. Grace, our relatives have been messaging us, asking what happened with your wedding cancellation. Are you and Marcus having problems? To avoid making them worry late at night, she hadn't told them when she sent the message about the wedding cancellation last night. She hadn't expected them to hear the news from others first. Grace selectively recounted the highlights of Marcus's actions. Her father, furious, raged on the phone, I knew that guy had dishonest intentions. I should have, fearing would be hurt by his words, he was interrupted by her mother covering his mouth. Her mother then gently comforted Grace, if the wedding is cancelled, it's cancelled. 6 years isn't that long. It's better to see things clearly before marriage than to endure after you're married. You can come home for a few days, or go anywhere you want to relax. Hearing her parents' cautious tone, so afraid she would be upset, Grace genuinely smiled for the first time. Before hanging up, her father angrily declared that he would immediately stop all investments in Marcus. Chapter 7. After and Marcus got engaged, they moved in together. The house they currently lived in, as well as the house prepared for their wedding in a few days, had both been fully paid for by her parents and given to Grace. Marcus had enjoyed everything without contributing, yet always feigned an air of self-reliance. Indeed, only when one is truly disappointed in a person can one see them clearly. Grace called for housekeepers, instructing them to clear out all her belongings from the house and send them to her parents' place. Afterwards, she contacted a real estate agent to take photos and listed the house for sale. Marcus hadn't contributed a single penny to either of these houses, so Grace naturally didn't need to inform him of how she chose to handle them. After packing up her things there, Grace called her best friend, Scarlett, to go out for dinner and relax. When arrived at their usual exclusive restaurant with Scarlett, a staff member immediately greeted them. Me. SS, are you here for your boyfriend? They've already gone in a while ago. I'll lead you there. Grace paused, speechless for a moment, before her best friend, Scarlett, let out an angry laugh. He really thinks your things are his own, doesn't he? Using your money to act like a big shot in front of his friends, that's just like him. I'm going in right now and telling them to kick them all out. The membership fee alone for this place was over $2 million. After found out Grace was a member, he said it was a waste of money to open another membership, but then conveniently took her membership card and came several times a month, charging everything to her account. The attending staff member stood awkwardly. If Grace isn't here for Mr. Marcus, then I'll ask them to leave immediately. Grace pulled Scarlett, calming her down. We're here to relax, there's no point getting angry over them again. Let's just let it go this time. We'll get another private room, and next time, no one else is allowed to use my card. The attending staff member quickly nodded in agreement and led them towards another private room. But by an unfortunate coincidence, they happened to pass by the room where Marcus and his friends were. The private room door wasn't fully closed, and Grace saw Marcus sitting at the head of the table, his face grim. Voices drifted out from inside. Grace is just banking on her good family background, helping you a bit in your early startup days. She's using that to lord it over you. If you don't show her who's boss, you'll be under her thumb your whole life after you're married. She never gives your friends any respect. Doesn't that mean she doesn't think much of you? Never mind us, but Chloe, who grew up with you, even she gets humiliated however Grace wants. We all feel bad for her. There's less than a week until your wedding. If your friends say to ignore the wedding dress issue, I don't believe Grace, as the bride, won't be anxious. Being with someone like Grace, you might as well just marry Chloe. I think you two are much more compatible than you are with Grace. Besides, you've already established yourself. Why continue to endure silently in front of Grace and her family? They only have a bit of money, what can they possibly do to you? Marcus's face was grim, and he remained silent the entire time, but knew that his silence meant he agreed with what they were saying. A social climber is a social climber. Grace, you never looked down on him, yet he believes those people's words. It's truly laughable. Chapter 8. Scarlett cursed under her breath, fuming. She still remembered Grace's earlier words about not wanting them to ruin her mood, so she didn't storm in directly. But since they had already run into them, not going in would be too cowardly. Amidst the continuous insults directed at her and the flattery towards Marcus, Grace simply pushed open the door and walked in. Grace, what are you doing here? Marcus, seated at the head of the table, was the first to spot Grace. He quickly stood up, his expression somewhat awkward. Instantly, the entire private room seemed to hit a pause button. An awkward silence spread through the private room. Chloe broke the silence with a pout. Grace, Marcus said he wasn't bringing you to this gathering. I can't believe you're pulling a stalking stunt. Marcus believed her words, his gaze turning to Grace with scrutiny. Grace, is what Chloe said true? Grace didn't answer Marcus's question. Instead, she looked at the dishes on the table, which cost over $10,000 per person, and the 2 bottles of $50,000 wine, then instructed the staff member beside her, have them settle the bill. Before the people in the private room could understand what Grace meant, the staff member had already stepped forward. The total is $168,800. May I ask who will be paying? What do you mean? Scarlett took the payment machine from the staff member's hand and shoved it in front of Marcus. It means that you're only able to sit here because you're using Grace's membership card, yet you're insulting the very person who's feeding you. Are you seriously expecting Grace to pay for you too? Marcus, will your good friends pay for this, or will you? Everyone's gaze turned to Marcus, and he felt his face burning. Grace, what is your problem? Are you going to settle accounts with me over a single meal now? What means is what I mean. Marcus, since you and your friends look down on the little money I have, then pay for it yourselves. Don't make it any more embarrassing than it already is. Marcus's friends, who had just been indignantly disparaging Grace on his behalf, were now completely silent. Nearly $200,000 was no small expense for any of them. The scene immediately grew awkward, and a crowd of curious onlookers gathered outside the door. After a full minute, Marcus succumbed in their staring contest, gritted his teeth, paid the bill, and stormed out in a rage. Chloe ran out after him. Looking at the remaining people, Grace showed no mercy. They don't have membership. Pack up their things and escort them out. Grace then ignored the angry shouts behind her and went with Scarlett to the new private room. It was not even 8 in the evening when they finished dinner. Remembering what had just happened, Grace now only wanted to deal with everything connected to Marcus as quickly as possible. And now only 2 things remained. The wedding venue they had booked, and their house. A quick phone call canceled the wedding venue booked for 5 days later. After the breach of contract fee was deducted, the remaining money was quickly transferred to her card. Afterwards, Grace and Scarlett met with the real estate agent and went to their house. Since the listed house had a good location and a reasonable price, people had already started contacting the agent about it, even though it had only been listed that afternoon. So, the agent had no complaints about the request to work overtime taking photos late at night. Upon arriving at our house, Grace skillfully entered the password to unlock the door, but noticed 2 pairs of shoes already in the entryway. The sounds emanating from the master bedroom were enough to make anyone blush. Chapter 9. She didn't need to think to know who was inside. After a high-pitched sound, silence fell in the bedroom. Grace had already started recording audio and video and was standing outside the door. For the sake of their 6-year relationship, Grace had originally only wanted to part ways amicably with Marcus, but he was clearly not satisfied with that. In that case, she wouldn't blame herself for cutting ties with him completely. Just as voices of passion resumed inside, Grace, unable to bear it any longer, pushed open the door and walked in. Marcus and Chloe were still intimately joined below, but startled by the sound of the door opening and the sudden intrusion of 3 people, he instantly deflated. Chloe was still wearing the wedding dress she had taken from the bridal boutique. Marcus hastily pulled the blanket over himself and Chloe, looking warily at the 3 of them who had burst in. The bedroom was decorated for a wedding, and wedding photos of Grace and Marcus hung on the wall above the bed. How disgusting! Grace took the tool Scarlett handed her and unleashed a barrage of blows on the 2 figures on the bed. She only stopped, panting, when both their faces were swollen like pigs' heads. Marcus, already sobered up by the beating, quickly flipped over and knelt on the bed. Grace, listen to me, I can explain. I was drunk. You made me lose so much face these past 2 days that I wasn't thinking clearly, and that's why. Grace slapped him twice more with the back of her hand. He did something so dirty and then tried to blame it on her. He was truly shameless. Marcus and Chloe, their clothes disheveled, were kicked out. Grace didn't want to stay in this disgusting place any longer. After handing over the photo-taking task to the agent, she gave him an additional $5,000 for cleaning fees, instructing him to remove everything from the bed and all the wedding photos of her and Marcus. As they left, Chloe was already gone, but Marcus was still kneeling outside the door, trying to beg for Grace's forgiveness. Before could even react, Scarlett kicked him in the face and pulled Grace away, striding quickly. Marcus remained there, and naturally, he then learned that Grace had listed our house for sale. He had originally thought Grace was just throwing a tantrum, and that everything would be fine if he apologized sincerely for a while. But as he tried every method to beg for her forgiveness, he discovered that Grace had even cancelled the wedding venue. Chapter 10. Only then did he panic, realizing that Grace was serious this time. However, it was already impossible for him to win her forgiveness. My father immediately cut off funding for his company. I also dug out the IOU he had personally written for appearances and made him pay back every cent. After I made it clear there was no chance of me changing my mind, he tried to rekindle my feelings for him by bringing up old memories, hoping to wiggle out of the substantial debt he owed. But was that even possible? We had long since burned our bridges, and there wasn't a shred of goodwill left between us. Watching Neil before me, pleading desperately, I curled my lips in a sarcastic smile. Didn't you completely agree with your buddies when they said my family gave you nothing, and you'd already established yourself through your own hard work and talent? If you're broke, mortgage your company. And if that's not enough, don't you still have all your buddies and Chloe? You spent so much money on them. Now that you're in trouble, surely they, as your buddies, wouldn't just leave you hanging, would they? Marcus's earful please faded. I didn't care what he was thinking as I turned and walked away. Ever since Marcus's business started to gain traction, good buddies had sprung up like weeds. Marcus reveled in their flattery, throwing money around lavishly for them. As a result, the liquid cash he had wasn't nearly enough to cover his debts. He called them one by one, but not a single person was willing to lend him money to tide him over. He went to their homes, one after another, only to be met with the cold shoulder every time. Oh, Grace is so fond of you, she wouldn't really make you pay back the money, would she? Just beg her, and it'll all blow over. How am I supposed to have money? The money you spent wasn't just on me. Go find whoever you wasted the most money on. Get out, get out, get out. Now. His former buddies had all shown their true colors now. The repayment deadline loomed, so Marcus had no choice but to mortgage his company. But without my family's investment, his company, which had never truly established itself, was practically worthless. Left with no other options, he sought out Chloe. At that moment, Chloe was hosting a party at her place with his former buddies. When they saw Marcus show up at the door, they all recoiled from him as if he were carrying the plague. Chloe, please lend me some emergency money. Once I pay it back, we'll get married. You know I'm capable, I can rebuild everything. Chloe looked at him with utter disdain. Who wants to start over with you? I'm certainly not used to hardship. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. You're still carrying my child. Don't forget, I paid the down payment for your house, and I make your mortgage payments every month. Are you really just kicking me to the curb now? Chloe casually tossed a piece of paper onto the table. It was a medical report. And his former buddies, one by one, started to verbally drive him away, treating him like garbage. Marcus's eyes instantly blazed with rage. He stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and returned to the living room, slashing indiscriminately. Before the police arrived, everyone in the house except Marcus was injured. Chloe and the person who had been the most vocal had already died before the ambulance got there. When I heard this news, I was vacationing in the Maldives. Marcus had injured so many people and killed two. Knowing that severe punishment awaited him, he jumped from an upstairs window the moment the police arrived. A faint ripple stirred in my heart, but it was quickly suppressed. The scenery ahead was beautiful, and I didn't look back. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section. Feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.